Hello and welcome, I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching the Africa Brief on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top stories of this hour. Libya, Khalid Muhammad Ali al-Hishri, a 47-year-old Libyan accused of 6 counts of crimes against humanity and 6 counts of war crimes at Tripoli's Mytika prison, made his first appearance before the International Criminal Court after his arrest in Germany and transfer to the Netherlands. Kenyan MPs accuse British troops of sexual abuse and environmental harm. A Kenyan parliamentary inquiry has accused British soldiers stationed in the country of repeated sexual abuse, unsafe training practices, and environmental violations, saying the behavior has made the foreign troops feel like an occupying force. UN sounds an alarm as violence in northern Mozambique forces over 100,000 people to flee. The UN Refugee Agency is expressing grave concerns as escalating attacks in northern Mozambique continues. This comes as they warn that the violence is now spreading into districts that were previously considered safe. Egypt-Greece trade has reached $2 billion with over 200 Greek companies operating in Egypt, according to the Egyptian-Greek Business and Investment Forum Deputy CEO Yasser Abbas, highlighting the access to African markets are driving stronger bilateral growth and new expansion opportunities. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati has urged the rapid formation of the Gaza International Stabilization Force during talks with German lawmakers, stressing the urgency of implementing UN Security Council Resolution 2803 and addressing the humanitarian catastrophe in the Strip. Clashes between students and security forces at Senegal's main university has intensified yesterday as protesters demanded stipends and other financial aid amid the ongoing government's fiscal challenges. Authorities at Sheikh Anta Diop University requested help from law enforcement to ensure safety as students clashed with security forces. After U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff's meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin on the peace plan to end the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, U.S. President has said that the talks were reasonably good, while further emphasizing on his push for peace. President Vladimir Putin is set to embark on his 2-day visit to India starting today. The two leaders will attend an annual summit held by both the countries. Now we move on to China. China has reported a magnitude 6.0 earthquake in Xianjing, a northwestern region bordering Kyrgyzstan, according to the China Earthquake Network Center. The quake struck near Akhui County at 3:44 p.m. local time, with the epicenter located at depth of 10 kilometers. Authorities have yet to report casualties or damage, and assessments are ongoing. Now we move on to Somalia. Residents and businesses in Somalia and Togo have expressed frustration after the Trump administration suspended immigration applications from their countries, part of a sweeping pause affecting 19 nations. The White House has said that the suspension, which holds green card and citizenship processing, was due to national security concerns. Countries affected include Afghanistan, Somalia, Sudan, Iran, Eritrea, Haiti, Yemen, Libya, Myanmar, Togo, Burundi, Sierra Leone, and Venezuela. In Mogadishu, residents have called the policy unfairly targeting communities, while in Lome, Togo's travel industry has suffered immediate economic impacts. With visa application dropping, an airline operation hit Listening to what a few residents have shared.
Donald Trump ma aha mid Soomaalida saameyn ku yeelan karta maaha sababta sidaas uu leeyahay waxay tahay Donald Trump naftirkiisa dhalad maaha oo nin asiga si Soomaalida oo kaleeto halkaas soo galooti ku ahaa asiyo Barack Obama iyo soo galooti ku ahaayeen say u dadaalayeen macnaha darajada madaxtinimo halkaas tii
caalamka dhan ayuu maartay ayuu sidaas u dhaqmaa dawladda waaweyn uu leeyahay maartay Ameerika ku soo darmaysan sida Canada oo kale hadda Venezuela dhibku ka wado waa garanaysaan oo dal madax banaan ah marka waa nin ku xadgudub markasta qaranimada maartay iyo safartiga maartay wadamada kale nin marba ku xadgudub waayay marka waxaan isleeyahay annaga dawladahaas oo ku xadgudbaan qayb ka nahay dawladda ku xadgudbaan qayb ka nahay marka waxba weyn oo dhimo doon insha Allah warkiisu.
Now for this discussion, we welcome Dr. Levi Nudu. He's a political analyst, joins us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Thank you very much for joining us today. Welcome to NewsX World, Doctor. Doctor, what more can you tell us about this evolving situation?
Good day to you, good day to the viewers. Thank you for having me. Please repeat your question.
Yes, I only asked what can you tell us more about how the U.S.'s Trump administration's new rule against Somali people and a lot of countries in third world countries affecting the people over there?
Countries would have their own policies that relate to migration, both legal or illegal migration. They would have their own stance when it comes to how to treat the illegal immigrants in their countries. In the current state, President Trump's administration appears to be saying that they are not happy with the presence of the undocumented Somali refugees that are found in Minnesota. And what appears to be the plan is that they are talking about having to deport these people out of Minnesota because according to President Trump, there is no meaningful contribution that they make to the city of Minnesota. And that's why he is talking about having these people removed. But what appears to be an interesting issue is that the leadership of Minnesota, as in the mayor, appears to be contradicting what President Trump is saying in relation to these immigrants, because he appears to be very much opposed to what the president is saying. This should not be seen as something that is happening for the first time, because based on President Trump's stance, there are those who are supportive of his stance and policy direction, and those who are for President Trump. And that, for me, creates an opportunity for a dialogue so that these kind of issues are therefore being able to be discussed, ventilated, and then a common ground has to be found.
Yes, and Dr. Levi, why do you think, where is, Mr. President, Trump's this motive coming from of putting, not sanctions, but putting these rules against these immigrations or immigrants suddenly from these countries?
What appears to be the stance of President Trump is what has always been emphasized during his campaign, and not only recently, even the previous one, of saying America first and prioritizing the citizens of America. What also appears to be a challenge is that there are those, as I've indicated earlier, who would not agree with his stance and those who will agree with his stance. But I think we need to know President Trump for what he is, that he is quick to take decisions no matter how the information came towards this direction, whether it is based on facts or not, President Trump appears to be the person who is always very ready to take the action, no matter what it would cost.
Yes, 100%. Dr. Levi, please stay with us as we stay on this discussion now. Now, Minneapolis officials have spoken out to reassure the city's Somali community amid reports of an upcoming federal immigration enforcement operation. Mayor Jacob Free, who is the police chief, and other city leaders have emphasized support for the Somalis, the largest community of its kind in the U.S., highlighting their economic and cultural contributions. Frey has warned that targeting Somalis could lead to due process violations and the detention of American citizens based solely on appearance. Let's listen into the comments made by Trump that was highly refuted by Frey and other leaders.
They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota.
Now for this discussion, we welcome back Dr. Levi Nudu. He's a political analyst, joins us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Thank you very much, Doctor, for staying with us. Now, as you rightfully mentioned that, Minneapolis has rejected this, and you also interestingly mentioned that President Trump seems to believe what comes first to him, regardless of the facts that support such cases. So what political pressures could these city leaders face in balancing support for these vulnerable communities with cooperating with the federal authorities while looking at the Somalis in Minnesota?
Yes, indeed. I think what is something that we need to acknowledge is the fact that even in the first few months when he got into office, his first issue was to talk about dealing with immigrants and indeed illegal immigrants that are found in the US. And this, in my view, should be seen as part of the plan and the promise that he made when he got into office. Of course, there would be those who would agree and those who disagree, but we are going to get a lot of unpleasant response to this kind of issues. And these are issues that have a potential to polarize the nation and its people, because there are those who are firm on these issues and there are those who are sympathetic to immigrants. And my view is that before taking action, it will have been important to first have a dialogue and as much consultation as possible, so that when a decision is taken, it has actually encompassed the views of the general population.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Dr. Levi for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on to Nigeria, the United States has said that it will begin restricting visas for Nigerians and their family members implicated in mass killings and violence against Christians. The announcement comes as Washington sharpens pressure on Nigeria over what it calls escalating religious persecution. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that restrictions target those involved in attacks carried out by radical Islamist groups, Fulani militias, and other violent actors. The move aligns with comments by President Donald Trump, who recently accused radical Islamists of killing Christians in Nigeria and even ordered planning for potential military action. Nigeria's long-standing security crisis is complex, involving religiously motivated attacks, farmer-herder clashes, extremist violence from Boko Haram, and widespread kidnappings. With the population split evenly between Christians and Muslims, authorities warn the situation remains fragile. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Dr. Levi Nudu. He's a political analyst, joins us live from Johannesburg. Thank you very much, Dr. Levi, for staying with us. Dr. Levi, what's the actual situation in Nigeria about this U.S.'s stance, or Trump claiming that there have been injustice against Christians?
It's interesting that we find ourselves, or some of the people, or Nigeria find themselves in this kind of a situation. We have had a lot of people being persecuted for their own religious beliefs, and mainly in some parts of Nigeria. But I think there is some quantification that has to be made in relation to these issues. We also do know that President Trump has always been talking about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, which is something that the Nigerian state and the people of Nigeria have also rejected as untrue. And my view is that in an attempt to punish Nigeria or some Nigerians, that is the stand that has been developed by President Trump. And my view is that this could be an opportunity to open up discussions between Nigeria and the US and have the facts put on the table and have all the necessary clarifications. Whether that will work or not is something else, because more or less similar issues have been raised about the persecution of some minority groups in South Africa. The South African government went on to try and clarify these issues with President Trump, but unfortunately he stood on what he actually had, which in the view of South Africans and many other people is something that is not correct. So we don't know how this time he might respond. But the fact of the matter is that there is a stance by the Nigerian government which contradicts what President Trump has been saying.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Dr. Levi for joining us today as a political analyst from Johannesburg and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. The UN Refugee Agency is raising the alarm as violence surges again in northern Mozambique. More than 100,000 people have fled their homes in just a week. The attacks are now pushing into areas once seen as safe, leaving families with nowhere to go. UNHCR's Javier Creech has said that the situation is dire. This is the fourth major wave of displacement in recent months, and resources are running out. People arrive hungry, exhausted, and deeply traumatized. Host communities are overwhelmed, but many families are packed into classrooms and makeshift shelters. Aid workers also warn of growing risks of sexual violence against women. The conflict, which began in Cabo Delgado in 2017, has already displaced more than 1.3 million people, and now with attacks spreading into Nampula and Nyassa, humanitarian agencies are urging urgent international support to prevent an even deeper crisis. Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Sirakarji. He's a senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, what political pressures could the Mozambican government face domestically, also internationally, in responding to these crises? Is this a region that's vulnerable to such crises?
Soma, good afternoon. Thank you for getting me for your show, and brilliant question you have asked. In fact, giving them any narrative anywhere in the world without the primary question being answered will not make our viewers understand. Our audience will go blank. So you have raised the moot question. What is the main cause of violence in Mozambique? So please allow me, if you have time, I'll make very quick reflections so that people who are listening, they understand. You see, it is It's a very complex kind of a combination of factors, multiple factors. There is a Islamist insurgency in the Cabo Delgado region. There is a widespread political violence fueled by disputed elections. They have had elections in the recent past. Some say it was rigged, some say it was not properly held. There is also a kind of a economic hardship which people are going through. There is a lack of job opportunities. And the youth bulge being what it is, insurgency has actually been complicated by climate change, while the political and economic issues have led to protest and crackdown by security forces. Very quick reflections, Soma,
Yes.
here after 3 or 4 points, a couple of points. One is one need to understand that Mozambique is one of the countries where you have the Islamist insurgency in full blown measure. Since 2017, we have been claiming that the backbone of ISIS was crushed in 2017. The Western alliances have been claiming. But what did it happen apart from ISIS? There is a group known as Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab is an armed militant group who are responsible for the ongoing insurgency, and that ongoing insurgency, they are linked to Al-Qaeda. The Al-Qaeda that we are popularly known as, they have been conducting attacks on the northern province of Cabo Delgado, and these groups have ties to the Islamic State group as well. As we know that Al-Qaeda and ISIS, they are hand in gloves in many things. The second thing that I wish to also share with our audience is, there is an underlying cause. The cause is, when you talk about the insurgency or terrorism or militancy, it is fueled by the grievances linked to high poverty level. People don't have a square meal a day, live alone the education and other requirements of livelihood. They lack a land and job opportunity. They don't have land. And the perceived benefit from the region's rich offshore natural gas. They have huge reservoir of natural gas, offshore gas reserves. They are going to the external companies. The locals are not benefited. They don't get any job opportunities. So the foreign companies, they come, they invest money, they have the oil rigs, they are mining oil, and thereafter they export the crude oil for refinement to elsewhere. And people who are employed, they are all foreigners. They are not from Mozambique. That is the issue. And the government is totally couldn't care less, and the local population is totally dissatisfied. Now, when I talk about the climate change, a lot of people ask as to, I gave a lecture on this to international audience in the recent past.
Yes.
People are actually, flummoxed as to how climate change is actually, connected with what is happening in Mozambique. You see, since time is at premium, Asuma, I'll not take too much time. Now, the conflict has been actually exacerbated by natural disasters like cyclones, floods, droughts. The livelihoods have been devastated, and these have led to increased instability. Now, why are the cyclones, floods, and such kind of storms are taking place so much in not only in Mozambique, but many other countries in Africa? Is because of the climate change. And when we talk about climate change, it is not alone the melting of the glaciers. It is because of the rising sea level, the El Nino factors, because of forest fires and such like issues which are actually adding on. And also there is a political and economic violence which is taking place. The disputed elections which took place a year back or so, a year or 2 years back, it is actually, given rise to allegations of fraud and irregularities, leading to protest and clashes between opposition supporters and the security forces. And the economic hardship, which a decade of economic stagnation has left many citizens, particularly young people with very few job prospects, which contribute to social unrest and make them more susceptible to recruitment by armed groups. And last but not the least, the police and the security actions are actually giving rise to excessive force, arbitrary arrests and crackdowns against the protesters, and further escalating tensions. And it has further led to kidnapping, humanitarian crisis, for which there is food insecurity, displacement of people, and interrupted access to essential services like healthcare. That is all I have to share. Back to you, Asuma.
Well, Major General, you have shared it all. I have no questions to ask you. Please stay with us as we move on to our next news. Thank you very much. Now we move the focus to Libya. A Libyan man accused of crimes against humanity and war crimes has made his first appearance before the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Khalid Mohammed Ali al-Heshri, a 47-year-old former commander at Tripoli's Mitika prison, sat quietly as judges heard charges including murder, rape, and torture. Prosecutors say he oversaw the abuse of detainees between 2015 and 2020, and at times personally carried out killings. El-Hishri extradited from Germany this week following his July arrest on a sealed ICC warrant, has confirmed only his identity and asked judges to consider releasing him while the case proceeds. A hearing to determine whether the evidence is strong enough for a full trial is set for May 19, 2026. While El-Hishri's case is expected to become the first Libyan prosecution to reach trial at the ICC, which has also issued arrest warrants for 9 other Libyan suspects, including a son of the late Muammar Gaddafi. Now for this discussion, we welcome back retired Major General Sudakarji. He's a senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for staying with us. Now looking at this, how significant is this ICC trial, particularly in this individual, Khalid Mohammed Ali al-Hishri? How do you think this will influence Libya's political reconciliation and transitional justice efforts involving war-torn countries?
Great question again, Asabab.
Thank you.
You have framed it so well that it is pointing towards one issue. Let me clarify at the very outset that our audience would do well to understand that this person, Khalid Mohammed Ali al-Hishri, now he was a senior commander at Mitiga prison. This has to be understood. Okay, see, these are the allegations. And to the best of my understanding, I have traveled enough in Africa, so I know by and large how things actually, can be anticipated or can be deduced. He was the senior commander at the Mitiga prison, where they say he ordered and he oversaw crimes between 2015 to 2020. So this is the central issue which is to be understood as to why he has been subjected to trial by the International Criminal Court. Apart from that, one will do well very briefly connect it with how it came about. It started sometime in 2011 when the country was going into lawlessness. Muammar Gaddafi, as you all know, he was subjected to lots of attrition activities by the alliances and forces around, and that is the time this man, he was given the exclusive task, because there are groups and subgroups in Libya itself. So that is the time he actually earned ignominy because of 6 counts, I would say. And these 6 counts of crimes are against humanity, and 6 of war crimes for alleged abuse of detainees at the prison, including personally murdering one person. There is not allegation, this is a confirmed charge against him. He murdered a person in his own hand, there is blood stain on his hand, and including personally, overseeing the murder, rape and torture of others, according to charges read out at the public hearing. He was not required to enter pleas to the charges. So what happens is, when a thing like this comes to the International Criminal Court, to answer your question directly now, it does impact the overall rule of law in the country. And it is going to make a very significant impact, in my opinion. You cannot actually close your eyes and dismiss such kind of lawlessness and people having taken law into their hand and administered or ensured some kind of stability in the country. These kind of things are not accepted, no matter what form of democracy or the governance is. Back to you, Asuma.
100%. Hopefully this sets a good precedent all over the world. With that, I would like to thank Major General Sudakarji for always joining us and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now, viewers, we move the focus on to Senegal. Clashes between students and security forces at Senegal's main university has intensified. Protesters are demanding stipends and other financial aid amid the government's ongoing fiscal challenges. Authorities at Sheikh Anta Diop University in the heart of the capital have requested help from law enforcement to ensure safety as rock-throwing students clashed with security forces who responded with tear gas. The West African nation is struggling with a severe financial strain and debt burden that the International Monetary Fund says is equal to 132% of its gross domestic product. Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko, an alumnus of the university, has pledged to combat unemployment, corruption, and elitism. However, since he took office in April last year, alongside President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, the administration has faced criticism from opposition parties for its handling of growing social and economic challenges. Now we have a breaking news. We focus on to India. Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued formal statements following his meeting with the U.S. delegation at the Kremlin on Tuesday. Putin has said that while the search for a solution to the Ukraine crisis is a difficult task, he has described the meeting with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and U.S. President's son-in-law Jared Kushner as necessary and very useful. He has noted that during negotiations with Witkoff, he had to go over practically every point, which explained why the meeting lasted very long. The Russian president has confirmed that proposals brought to Moscow by the U.S. delegation were based on his previous agreements with U.S. President Donald Trump in Alaska back in August this year. According to Russian state media, the discussions covered the essence of cooperation, not specific wording or decisions, and both sides see great prospects for future collaboration. Moreover, Putin's top foreign policy aide has also added that the recent talks in Moscow were constructive, very useful and substantive, but no compromises were reached. The talks come amid a U.S. push with a new peace proposal, with the White House expressing overall optimism about potential cooperation with Kremlin as well as with Ukraine. And that's a wrap on Africa Brief. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.